5 years later, Emperor Constantine commissioned the production of 50 copies of the Christian Bible. And over the next several decades, the Roman Empire finally embraced the cultural influence of Christianity. During this same period, Jews also suffered persecution under Roman rule. Following years of tension, 3 major Jewish revolts broke out against Rome. The first saw the destruction of Jerusalem and the Holy Temple in AD 70. The Arch of Titus, here in Rome, gives a powerful testimony to the fall of Jerusalem in AD 70. The entire city, including the temple, were utterly destroyed by the Romans under Titus. This arch depicts the looting of the temple treasures. Later failed revolts further scattered the Jewish people in a diaspora stretching from Spain to India. At the same time, there developed renewed emphasis on an inner spiritual life centered on the great collections of rabbinic teaching, Mishnah, Talmud, and Midrash that were brought to completion after the Christianization of the Roman Empire. This was an era in which synagogue worship replaced temple sacrifice, and study of the Torah became a sacred duty for all Jews. The synagogue became a miniature temple that was carried by the Jews to all the lands of their exile, lands in which they would continue to make great strides in the study of the Bible and the Jewish tradition. Between the 5th and 10th centuries, Jewish scholars added a system of notation and punctuation to the Hebrew Bible, completing the Masoretic text. This version spread throughout the world and became the standard for interpreting the Hebrew Bible. Over the following centuries, as the Samaritan tradition anchored itself in northern Israel and the Jewish faith spread in enclaves throughout the Roman Empire and beyond, numerous Christian traditions emerged, including the Catholic, Eastern Orthodox, Oriental Orthodox, and Assyrian Church of the East. All of these faith traditions claimed and used some portion of the Bible. While some perspectives on the Bible did not endure, other traditions, such as the many Protestant churches, would not emerge for hundreds of years.
We've been emerged for a long time.
Handled a rowboat on a lake, and now the clouds are black as night and the waves are white with foam. For if our ship drifts into the wish for haven, I shall be content to be told that the pilotage was fine. But if through my unpolished language we run aground amid the rough currents of language, you may blame my lack of polish, but you will always very
Christian Church and its spread throughout the Mediterranean. Let's check out a few discoveries related to religious texts of the early Christian
I see my dreams over 2 of them also. Truck driver, 16 years old. After 30 years
first stop.
Prior to printing, each Bible had to be copied by hand, one at a time. The impact of Gutenberg's printing press upon the Bible emerged quickly. By the beginning of the 16th century, approximately 100,000 Bibles were in print. Some scholars have said that the printing press impacted the world more than any single event in the last 1,000 years. As Gutenberg's invention spread to Italy in the late 1400s, Jews came to the country from Spain and Portugal, increasing the demand for Hebrew printed books. Italian printers such as Daniel Bomberg were among the first to print the Hebrew Bible and the Talmud in the Hebrew language. Bomberg's impact on Hebrew printing was so significant that some of his innovations and layouts are still used today. Despite some persecution and controversy, and using the work of scholars like Erasmus, reformers such as Luther and Tyndale pushed ahead with translations of the Christian Bible into the local languages of the common people. Erasmus was born in Holland in the late 1460s. He was educated in a monastery, ordained a priest, and later became one of the foremost humanist scholars of the Renaissance. In 1512, Erasmus, unhappy with the quality of the Vulgate, began to work on a new translation of the New Testament, from Greek into Latin. In 1516, Erasmus published his first New Testament with parallel Greek and Latin texts. Because the first edition was rushed for a publisher, it contained a number of errors, making later editions necessary. Erasmus's second edition from 1519 became the basis for Luther's German translation of the New Testament. And Erasmus's third edition from 1522 became the basis for Tyndale's translation of the first printed English New Testament. Martin Luther from his role in the Protestant Reformation and his 95 Theses that it is said he nailed to the church door here in Wittenberg. It was these activities that got him excommunicated from the church. After leaving his hearing with the emperor at the Diet of Worms, Luther was kidnapped by horsemen. But it was a setup. A wealthy supporter, Frederick III, intercepted Luther and delivered him to the safety of Wartburg Castle, here at Eisenach. Within a year of protective custody here at Wartburg Castle, Luther performed the extraordinary feat of translating the New Testament from Erasmus's Greek into German in this very room. By 1534, Luther and his associates completed the translation of the Old Testament from Hebrew into German and published the entire Luther Bible. Luther's version quickly became popular and influential, contributing to the development of the German language and literature. It also influenced other common language translations, such as Tyndale's English Bible. William Tyndale was an English scholar and a contemporary of Luther. He studied at Oxford and Cambridge during the 16th century. Tyndale was a gifted linguist, fluent in 7 languages, including Latin, Hebrew, and Greek. In 1523, Tyndale traveled to London seeking permission from the bishop to translate Erasmus's Greek New Testament into English. But Tyndale was denied permission and moved to Germany, where he continued his work and completed the English New Testament in 1526. Soon, Tyndale's New Testament was smuggled into England and became very popular. Tyndale set the linguistic style for English New Testament translations for centuries to come. There was a studied simplicity to his language, which was designed to make the New Testament accessible to the common person. English authorities, including Thomas More, condemned Tyndale's translation on the basis of that same popular language. Eventually, Tyndale was tried for heresy related to his religious beliefs. He was condemned to die by strangulation and burning at the stake in 1536.
Let's continue our trip through the history of the Bible.
Officially announced, you're going to be reading English Bibles in church from now on. So, just 3 years later, his prayer was answered, and a great Bible was official.
From Oxford, Cambridge, or the Church of England. Now, the task was divided among 6 committees of these men, 2 at Oxford University, 2 at Cambridge University, and 2 here at Westminster Abbey. Many of the revisions to the Bible were made here in the Jerusalem chamber at Westminster Abbey. This room still looks much as it did in 1611. But as it turns out, the King James Bible wasn't really completed with the 1611 version. Actually, it underwent numerous revisions over the course of the first 150 years of its existence. So, scholars at both Oxford and Cambridge determined it was time to produce an updated text. The Oxford edition of 1769 became the standard version and continues almost unchanged to this day. As the British and other colonial empires spread European influence around the globe, they carried Christianity and the Bible with them. The dominance of the British Empire led to the King James Bible being the single most common version of the Bible in the world. The continual growth of the British Empire carried the King James Bible around the globe. American colonists even used the rhetoric of the King James as an inspiration during their revolution. Later, the Industrial Revolution allowed newly formed Bible societies to print and distribute the King James Bible on a scale previously unimaginable. The King James Bible became the most dominant English translation, and it remained so for at least 350 years. Today, it is still a top-selling Bible translation, but it has been joined by numerous modern translations. And look where technology has taken us today. From stone tablets to electronic tablets. The Bible, translated in the language of a new generation.
Today, Bibles are almost everywhere, but this has not always been true. Until the 19th century,
And they received the Holy Spirit. But Simon saw that the Spirit was given and they
The waterproof Bible. Printed inside, glass inside, waterproof.
Tammy Evans Bible.
Yes, I had one.
Perché